Good morning, colleagues. We wish you have had a very good night yesterday. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the pitch up, part of the investment-focused event under the MWP. And for those who don't know us, because we said yesterday, today is not only limited to who registered for the MWP, but there may be some participants from the participation of the Global Climate Week. Just very shortly introduce myself. My name is Gao Xiang and come from the National Center for Climate Change Strategy and the International Cooperation of China, and nominated by developing countries as the co-chair of the mitigation work program, especially the Global Dialogue. And let me pass the floor to my co-chair, Angela.
Yes, good morning. I'm Angela Churi-Kalahauge. I work with Environmental Defense Fund, which is a global non-profit, and I am serving as co-chair on behalf of the developed countries group.
Just give you a very brief background of the MWP. The Sharm el-Sheikh Mitigation Ambition and Implementation Work Program, so called for short MWP, was established at COP26 in Glasgow and operationalized at COP27, with the aim of urgently scaling up mitigation ambition and implementation in this critical decade. And it brings together parties and non-party stakeholders to share knowledge, exchange experiences, and identify opportunities for accelerating action. And the Global Dialogue and the investment-focused event are the two main vehicles through which the MWP does its work. And the Global Dialogue focused on knowledge exchange, and the investment-focused event, of which this pitch-up is a part, focuses on the mobilizing support for concrete projects and initiatives. And before we begin, we would like to take a moment to reflect on the past 2 days of the Global Dialogue and the investor-focused event. We have had a very rich and substantive discussions, and we have heard from a wide range of participants from parties, non-party stakeholders, experts, practitioners from across the world. And we are grateful to all of them for their time, knowledge, and active engagement. And the pitch up today is an opportunity to bring some of those discussions closer to practice, to hear directly from countries about concrete projects and the initiatives they are working on. And today we will hear about projects in 5 countries, including Burkina Faso, Colombia, Liberia, the Republic of Korea, and Malawi. And each project proposal will be presented, and each pitch will be followed by feedbacks from our advisory panel. And we are pleased to have this following panelists with us today. Ms. Catherine Allen Hughes, the Asian Development Bank, the ADB. Mr. Max Russer, the NDC Partnership, who will participate online. Ms. Pruna Saxena, the United Nations Capital Development Fund. Ms. Rosa Stella Mubalu, the Mitigation Action Facility, who will also participate online. And Mr. Simon Perales, the International Renewable Energy Agency, the IRENA. And we would like to note the pitch-up's solo aim is to provide an opportunity for interested parties to share their project ideas and interact with the investors, financial institutions, and other policymakers with a view to receiving expert advice and insights on investment project preparation. The advice and or insights shared by participants, by participating stakeholders are provided independently and on a voluntary basis, and are intended to inform and inspire further development of the project proposal. While these exchanges are designed to be helpful, they do not imply endorsement, funding commitment, or a specific outcome related to the project presented. With that said, we are pleased to invite the panelists to the podium, and I will also now head over to Simon, who are very kindly to help us to moderate the pitch up. Simon, please.
Thank you, Chair, for your introduction for this very important session today. My name is Simon Benmaraz from the International Renewable Energy. I'm the head of unit on the strategic infrastructure topic. And actually, previously, I used to be a project developer, so that's a very important session for me as well. Before we begin, I'd like to have a brief word on what the session is designed to do and what we are not here for. The 5 projects you'll see today represent a cross-section of mitigation work across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. But they are not policy presentation. We had that yesterday. They are investment pitches. Each presenter has been asked to show you what their project look like on the ground, what the financing architecture is, and what are the barriers are. And the advisory panel, each of them have 5 minutes to provide comments, are here to engage with exactly those questions. So my role as moderator is to keep the exchange moving and to make sure that the investment relevant points get surfaced. I will keep remarks tight so we stay on schedule. We have 5 projects, so 10 minutes for a presentation and then 10 minutes for feedback, and also we have opportunity for audience feedback as well. So this is what now, what is important is what matters is the presenter's presentation. So I'd like to hand over to the first project on Burkina Faso. The topic is about urban climate resilience in Burkina Faso through forestry and agroforestry, RUBFA. I think we have Christophe to present. Christophe is coming. So Christophe is the guinea pig of the session. So I'll try to organize a bit there. Welcome to the podium. Please have a seat. So Christophe, as I mentioned, we are here to hear from your project and how it addresses, I would say, the needs identified in Burkina Faso. So really looking forward for that, and then we'll have the panel to provide feedback and we'll open to the audience. Over to you.
Thank you very much. As said, my name is Christophe Eric Bayala from Burkina Faso. And first of all, I would like, on behalf of my country, to congratulate all the organizers of this meeting for the quality of the meeting and the quality of discussions. So I'm happy to present this project entitled Promoting Urban Forestry and Agroforestry in Cities, Semi-Urban and Peri-Urban Municipalities to mitigate climate change in Burkina Faso. The title has been changed, as requested by the committee members. So this is the new title that I just mentioned instead of the previous one that was Urban Climate Resilience in Burkina Faso through Forestry and Agroforestry. So the idea was to emphasize the mitigation aspect. Burkina Faso is extremely vulnerable to the effects of climate change, particularly due to its geographical location. As you already know, Burkina Faso is in the heart of the Sahel, a region characterized by increasing aridity and extreme climate variations. So urban and peri-urban areas of this country, in particular, are bearing the brunt of these climate impacts. Urban heats, icelands exacerbate high temperature, affecting public health and quality of life, and increasing energy demand for cooling. The degradation of urban forest ecosystems due to human pressure and climate change reduces their capacity to act as carbon sinks and provide essential ecosystem services. The project overall goal is to contribute to strengthening carbon sequestration potential in urban and peri-urban centers of Burkina Faso by adopting sustainable forest and land management practices, integrating agroforestry and preserving green spaces. It therefore aims to strengthen climate resilience and carbon sequestration, to contribute to low carbon development and adaptation to climate change, to create resilient green infrastructure, to promote sustainable agricultural practices and build local capacities. This project targets a reduction of carbon emission by around 6 million tons of carbon equivalent, and will directly affect 4,600,000 beneficiaries and directly around 10 million people. So for now, the project is at its preliminary phase. What has been done so far is a consultation among key institutional actors to conceive this concept note as one of the NDC projects. To achieve these goals, the project is based on 7 key actions. The first action is to preserve and restore urban forests and sacred groves. So here the expected outcomes are 3,000 hectares of urban park created in the new area of the Greater Ouagadougou. When I say Greater Ouagadougou, it is the area of the capital city, including the peri-urban localities. So another outcome is having 16,500 hectares of communal forests created in the area of influence of the Greater Ouaga, and also 4,000 hectares of urban forests and sacred groves preserved and restored in peri-urban localities of Ouagadougou. Then popularized use of improved cook stoves to reduce greenhouse gases emission and pressure on vegetation cover. So the second action is about creating, protecting, and securing urban green infrastructures. And the outcomes are incentives and support mechanisms for the protection of green infrastructures are put in place. The other one is former green belt of Ouagadougou is rehabilitated over 2,600 hectares. And the map is there, but I don't know whether it's possible to see. You can see the one in green is the former green belt, and the big one with trees surrounding the capital city. This is the idea of the new green belt. So as for the third action, it is about planting more than 1 million trees along the river banks and water bodies in the project intervention area. And the fourth action is focused on developing ecotourism and leisure infrastructure around 9 urban forests and 18 green spaces. The fifth action is to develop value chains for ecosystem services. So the fifth action is to develop value chain for ecosystem services derived from urban and semi-urban ecosystems. And here, the expected outcome is that nutritious garden and sustainable urban and peri-urban markets, gardening activities of 1,000 women and young people are developed on 300 hectares with promotion of agroforestry techniques. So the sixth action is related to raising awareness among 120,000 city dwellers about planting trees and ornamental species and organizing 108 environmental and environmental education sessions. And the last one, the last action is to strengthen the operational capacities of the main actors in charge of sustainable management of green infrastructures and conduct a study on the current state of regulation for landscaping. So we expect this project to face challenges and barriers. And these challenges are mainly related to the institutional and organizational challenges. So the barriers related to these challenges are mainly the limited capacity of local institutions and environmental the limited capacity of local institutions in managing the environment. So one of the barriers is also the insufficient coordination between local authorities, ministries, and NGOs involved in environmental management. Another one is the uncontrolled urbanization without consideration for green infrastructures. And the last one here is the lack of monitoring and control of green infrastructures management. And what we suggest as solution is to, of course, strengthen, reinforce the capacities of the local institutions, securing boundaries and adopting regulatory frameworks for protecting the green infrastructures. Other solutions can be creating coordination and dialogue. So coordination and, coordination and dialogue platform between local authorities and ministries. And another solution can be also to implement a monitoring and control system based on a synergy of action between actors. So the second challenge is about the regulations. So here the barriers, the key barrier is the insufficient regulatory framework for the protection of green spaces and the lack of awareness of regulation concerning the landscaping. And as a solution that we suggest is to reinforce policies for the protection of these green spaces, revision and the development of legal text in collaboration with relevant ministries. So another challenge here is related to the gender inequality. Here the key barrier that we identify is the low participation of women in natural resource management, the disparities in access to resources and economic opportunities. So as a solution that we suggest, it's to really include women in the project management committees and specific training for them. And also to target microfinance and economic support programs for this category of stakeholders, women. So another key challenge is the financial one. So here the barrier, of course, is the insufficient financial resource for urban forestry programs. And we propose as a solution to mobilize international fundings and public-private partnerships and also creating sustainable financing mechanism. So another challenge can be also the technical and technological informational challenge. So here key barriers that we identify are the limited access to green technologies and innovative practices, and also the lack of technical training for local actors. So the solution for this key challenge is to facilitate access to green technologies and adapted forestry practices, to also promote innovative technologies and build capacities. Of course, the insufficient awareness among stakeholders also regarding the sustainable land management practices is one of the key barriers that we identify, and the solution is to really awareness sessions toward them. So the total budget, the total cost of this project is $50 million, and requested funding is $46,500,000, $46,500,000, and the co-financing is $3,500,000. So the estimation length, the estimation duration of this project is 5 years. As a conclusion, what I can say is that this project stands out for its innovative approach to revitalizing urban centers through greening and reducing pressure on vegetation cover in peri-urban areas, as well as in the capital city area. Unlike past urban forestry initiatives, which focused primarily on firewood production, this project introduced modern technologies such as the use of improved cook stoves aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and the creation of resilient green infrastructures. And this innovative approach combines traditional land management methods with modern practices while promoting the active participation of local communities. And so the innovation also lies in accounting for carbon stocks sequestrated by vegetation cover, which will be integrated in the nationally determined contributions, thus reinforcing the country's commitment to reducing greenhouses. I would like to thank you so much for your kind attention, and we will be happy to receive your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very good presentation on this topic, and I understand you address some feedback you receive already on how to present it for the mitigation project. I think that's a genuinely interesting project, blending urban forestry, agroforestry at the municipal scale, in a country, of course, where the pressure on land and livelihood is evident there. Let me turn to the advisory panel. We are here, both physical and online. I will ask each organization, each panelist to give their observation. We have time for that. Obviously, in 5, 10, 30 minutes, cannot be a full assessment, but I think what's important is what stands out from an investment perspective. And I'd like to turn first to ADB for this exercise. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So firstly, congratulations. I think it's a very comprehensive proposal that really takes a programmatic approach and is clearly aligned with the country's NDC and NAP. So this is a grant-only application. So I think that's the first thing to consider when you're looking at financing. If it's applying for a grant, then the assessment process is different, obviously, than applying for a concessional finance or a loan. So the ability to access a grant then depends from an MDB perspective on the status of the country and the country classification, or alignment with a specific trust fund or funding source that may be available for this type of project. So I represent the Asian Development Bank, not the African Development Bank, but it would depend on the classification of Burkina Faso under the AFDB's lending or the World Bank lending. So I think also for a grant application, so the concept of additionality might not be articulated as a specific requirement like it is in carbon market projects, but MDBs are still looking for the concept of additionality, so does it enable activities that would otherwise not occur or unlock or, de-risk future investment or build capacity of institutions? So I think we can clearly see from this proposal that it is there. And for a grant-only proposal, then obviously it's a non-revenue generating project, so the financial assessment is different, but you still need a clear economic justification that even without revenue, the project's going to demonstrate net economic benefits. And long-term sustainability is a big issue for grant projects as well. So this is to cover 5 years, but what then is the plan for long-term continuation and permanence of the project? Maybe that's just general comments on grants, so specifically on this project. So I think it's good and very positive to see that it's clearly aligned with national priorities. And it also responds to a clear problem identification. So it was good to see a very logical approach to problem and response as part of the design. And responding as well to a recognised policy and investment gap. You know, that this is clearly an area that is difficult to either generate investment or fund through public budget. It's really good to see integration of mitigation and adaptation. I think too often we separate the two, but you know, integrated proposals obviously maximise the benefits. It's an early stage proposal, but at the moment the benefits are expressed very qualitatively. So there's limited articulation of quantitative figures. So that is definitely something that would need a lot of work and support to actually look at quantifying these benefits. And that can be very difficult when it's economic benefits, and it's one of the, I think, challenges, particularly around adaptation, on how we quantify what these benefits would be. But often to justify the finance, you still need some quantitative assessment. In terms of technical feasibility, I think it's not untested technology, so that's good. But obviously with forestry projects, the issue of permanence is an issue, and issues around kind of land tenure security and enforcement, so, and also long-term MRV. So in the particular context, I think also if it's my understanding is a highly climate vulnerable country, so long-term survival of the trees under drought and heat conditions would also be a consideration. I think from a finance perspective, 50 million is large, but it's not unfeasible for a grant. But I would say to consider maybe programmatic approach where financing is dispersed in phases or under some kind of structure that can help to manage the disbursement. I think the other issue that perhaps didn't come out clearly enough in the proposal is the implementation structure or the capacity of the key institution that would be receiving and dispersing the funds in terms of their ability to manage the funds and manage the program. So on one hand, it's a very comprehensive proposal with many components, but that makes implementation very complex in terms of coordination of stakeholders, management of all aspects, technical, financial, and so I think you need to have a look at the central agency or institution that would be project managing that and how you can build in the costs and capacity building of that institution as part of the proposal. I think I'm running out of time, so maybe last comment is just about obviously the processes. So I think you have started to look at some of the aspects in terms of environmental gender, but obviously depending on the funding source, you will have to comply with specific safeguards or outcome indicators. So it's good early to think about the specific funding source so you can tailor your proposal to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for those remarks. I think very useful, I think, for the progress of the proposal. You mentioned the aspect of additionality, which is fundamental in how to convince both the people who fund, but also how to explain also how the project develops. Importantly, you mentioned the non-revenue basis of the project, so nonetheless need to justify the economic, let's say, proposal or value for the project. And the value, we are here on the mitigation work program, but it is a hybrid or integrated project there. So food for thought for Christophe and his team to develop the proposal there. And I'd like to turn, and we'll try the virtual setting, to the NDC partnership colleague, Max Rosser. I get that you are on the line, Max?
I'm here. Can
Yes.
you see and hear me?
Yes, it must be horribly early for you or late, depending on where you are, but thank you very much for joining virtually there. So you heard about Catherine comments there. Not to duplicate, of course, her analysis from a MDB perspective, ADB, not AFDB, of course, but valuable insight. Max, how to make this proposal progress? And we heard this is integrated in an NDC perspective. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Simon, and thank you, Christophe, for the presentation of a very ambitious project, and thank you as well, Catherine. I have a lot of the same points, so maybe I won't cover quite as much. But yeah, just to kind of start off and go through the presentation sequentially. It seems that the project's at quite an early phase, and would definitely be interested in knowing kind of coming from the investor perspective, what the preliminary phase is actually referring to, whether it's, there's been a concept note that's been developed, whether there's been pre-feasibility studies or any sort of feasibility analysis that's been done. And because this is at such an early stage, would definitely consider looking at the relevant climate-aligned project preparation facilities and other project support providers that that you could use to get the project to the next stage. So that was one thing. Another, had a very similar comment on the ticket size at at $50 million. It does seem quite large, just kind of considering the current funding environment and especially for grant financing. And I could almost see that this project would be beneficial in breaking down the activities potentially into either separate phases, I think as Catherine touched upon, or even into a group of smaller but aligned projects. And just in terms of like the presentation itself, I think there's a lot of really great information within each of the different actions or activities, but I think maybe having those spaced out a bit more visually would just be a little bit easier to digest all of the great project activities that are being proposed. And then definitely can see how this aligns with the Burkina Faso NDC, but I think it could be helpful just to spell that out a bit more in the presentation, as well as identify any other national climate goals or targets or policies that speak to the activities that are proposed in the project. And then also just identifying the government entities that have been that you've spoken with and that may be either involved with the project or the project proponent, just kind of making sure that that's spelled out a little bit more as well. And then I just maybe ending with a question, would just be interested in how the project's the planned carbon sequestration and then the adaptation co-benefits could be measured and verified, especially given the kind of the time period, the length of the project. So yeah, maybe I'll end there. Back over to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Max, for those remarks. So I think you made very good remarks on essentially framing that further around the NDC of Burkina Faso, Also, it's important because obviously the NDC is the entry into the implementation of the plan and making sure that that is clearly outlined and explained how this connects the dots. And Max made further intervention about further developing the proposal so it's more readable for different stakeholders that can read it, both the financial institutions, but also people who would also support its development there. So thank you very much, Max, for this first round. And thank you, Christophe, for this presentation. So food for thought for the development, but you saw the remarks from the advisory panel that it is a very important and crucial project to be developed further on. We'll try for this first project to open the floor for the audience. If there is any remarks or intervention, if there is none, we'll move to the second project, which will be online with Colombia. Is there any remarks or interventions from the floor? Yes, so I think you have to go to the microphone, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Kingsley. I'm from Ghana. And Christophe, congratulations. From Tumu. It's close to Burkina Faso. Thank you, yeah. But I'm just curious. I want to know what measures have you put in place to gain donor confidence, financial donor confidence, given the current political situation in Burkina Faso, because $50 million is a very huge amount. So the financial architecture is important in considering, or per se, if I am a donor, I will consider the political situation before I commit, such an amount of money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's a good remark. I think in any investment proposal, there needs to be a risk evaluation. I think that's always important for any institutions to provide support. And every risk, including what you mentioned, sir, from the political risk, needs to be addressed with a credible mitigation. So maybe, Christophe, can you elaborate further? Are the political risk addressed in your proposals there?
Thank you so much, and thank you for the previous advisors, for the quality of the advice that I got, and thank you also my brother from Ghana, and about the political risk. What I can say now is that I can't really say that there is issues about financing this project in terms of risk, because the financial architecture is still there, and currently the government is trying to put a lot of the garde-fous. Je parle français. Like ideas or organs in place to be able to monitor how the money is used in each sector, and also in terms of les acteurs de la corruption, like audit sector.
Yeah, I mean, what you mentioned is that there is safeguards in place to making sure that there is appropriate monitoring on disbursements and issues related to how this grant will be allocated to the project. Yes.
Yeah, it's something like that, and you can be sure that in political level, government, they are used to work with donors. They are used to a lot of partnership in this type. So I think there is no problem for that. Maybe if you would like, we can discuss more about it later.
Thank you very much. I think that's a good response in a complex subject. In general, of course, political risk is addressed in mitigation and, for example, in our field of work in energy, addressing that also with a political risk guarantee that can be provided to a project will offset certain question about change of government and issue there. So thank you very much for those. For some food for thought for the progress of the proposal for there. And I propose now that we move over to the second project in Colombia. Colombia, we have you on the line. May I ask if you are hearing us?
Yes, I am.
Hello, should be good afternoon for you or good evening?
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello. So a very warm welcome to you to the Pitch Hub. So you heard the first, I would say, session. We'll have a similar approach. Jenny, we're going to hear from you. We'll have a slide presentation there, and you hear actually from myself and the colleague from the NDC partnership on your proposal. We'll try to be additive, so not repeat the comments, but please, the floor is yours to present the project on industry decarbonization pathway, a very important subject we addressed as well yesterday and today. Thank you. Over to you, Jenny.
Thank you. Will you share the slides?
Yes, colleagues are sharing the slides. Can you see the slides?
No. Ah, yes.
Yes, so we have slide 1, project proposal with the overview.
Okay. Okay, good morning there. I'm Jenny Alarcón, representing the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Tourism in Colombia. I would like to start by thanking the government of Korea for hosting this session and the UNFCCC Secretariat for the opportunity to be part of this dialogue. In Colombia, we would like to not to foster like a single project, but to foster a process. Within this project, we are building a permanent pathway to accelerate corporate climate action in Colombia, only that transforms how industry decarbonized and unlocks clean investment and generates sustainable productive development, employment, and competitiveness over the time. So this acceleration pathway for a competitive and decarbonized industry in Colombia will address a problem that the market is not working now, mainly by these 5 reasons we are showing there. A high capex, that clean technologies is over 10 or 30% over conventional technology. There's a high risk perceived that limits the access to credit for the business. And there is not a pipeline of technical assistance. It is very fragmented. And finally, not being an MRV systems, trust disappears, investors cannot price risk and verify the impact. So the investment does not flow. This produces also a weak alignment between policy, finance, and industry. We would like to work on that. We believe that decarbonization is not only a climate issue, but a competitiveness issue, and we find there is an opportunity and a growing demand for low carbon products in the global market. Our NDC in Colombia is ambitious. We have a NDC target to reduce 51% of emissions by 2030. And in the industrial sector, we must achieve a target of reducing more than 6 million tons of CO2. Our solution proposed is to accelerate a pathway, like to in place a systemic solution that combines policy alignment, technical pipeline development, and a better access to technology and to financial de-risking. This will in place an enabling system that turns projects into investments. This is placed by this project architecture, by policy and governance. Like it is always important to enhance coordination between institutional entities and also public and private sector to enable this an effective decarbonization pathway. Also, we think and we have learned that to develop a platform is very necessary for business, so them can have a permanent service window with a digital MRV platform that guides every step in the pathway. Then also the technology access, a technological bank that facilitates the transfer of new and clean technology, and also to help to implement like sustainable business models. No, also because this is a new opportunity for the industry to have new sustainable products and services. And the fourth element is the financial instruments. We have proposed a revolving catalytic fund that I will explain in the next slide. So each component removes a critical barrier in the system. Are you seeing? Oh, no, the previous slide, please. Yes, thank you. This project is also aligned with the science-based targets. We believe that implementing the science-based targets organized all our efforts. So these projects will enable this environment, as I mentioned, that activates the investment and accelerate this route for a competitive and decarbonized industry that also strengthens the technical and institutional capabilities and implement financial mechanisms for so that public policy can show a clear sign up for the private sector, reducing investment risk and facilitating the structuring of bankable projects. This project is organized for 5 years, 1 year for project preparation and 4 years of structuring and implementation. It is focused in the industrial sector, and the total cost is $25 million. We are requesting $8.6 million and co-financing $12.4 million. This mainly through public sector and private sector and other donors' contribution. The owner is the Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Tourism, and we are working with some very important allies that are Impulsa Colombia. Impulsa is our entity of the sector that implements our as technical assistance and financial projects around the country. And we have been working a lot with UNEP and WWF as very important allies in this project. And we have a lot of lessons learned to capitalize in this project. Regarding the impact, we are creating, as I mentioned, a bankable pipeline of projects, standardized MRV that unlock funding and long-term transformation for the industrial sector. We have identified like a very direct impact in 90,000 tons of CO2 equivalent, and to support 300 companies. But the important thing is that this is a scalable model that we believe will be replicable beyond the project. Just to emphasize that in Colombia, this project is extremely aligned with our NDC 3.0 and our long-term strategy for carbon neutrality for 2050 and the green taxonomy. Yes, we are looking then for funding partners, concessional capital, mixed financial instruments, and technical partners that support project structuring and the MRV system, and technology providers, so that we can reduce the risk and to implement scalable models.
Jenny, we have 1 minute.
Yes, and the next one, yes, this is the last one. So here, just we want to emphasize that this revolving catalytic fund is designed for sustainability. By using the recovered capital, we will leverage an additional 12.6 million euro without requiring new donations. So our vision is that this blended finance will not replace markets, but will create the market. So we don't want like to only to subsidize, but to enable and activate the market and the private investments. Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much, yes, for your presentation. For this segment, we have both Max and myself to give remarks there. So out of courtesy, I will ask Max to start, and I will complement. Max, you heard Jenny about the role of the project and the integration of RCF in the MRV approach. You heard about the integration of the project in the NDC 3.0 of Colombia, which was very good. So how can we move this proposal further?
Yeah, thanks so much, Simon, and thanks so much, Jenny, coming at you from the Western Hemisphere as well. Yeah, enjoyed your presentation. Yeah, so starting off, nice to see, coming from the NDC partnership, seeing the specific target for industrial mitigation from Colombia's NDC. So I think that's great. The problem statement was also very helpful, and then nice to see that the project is designed in a way that's designed to be financially sustainable. In terms of the project architecture, I think it could help to maybe flesh that out a bit more on the initial slide. There's again a lot of very interesting activities there, including the technology bank and the revolving catalytic fund. but they're kind of squeezed into some small boxes, and I think having some room to flesh out some of the additional details on those activities, I think would be really helpful. And then in terms of the financing and the project cost, so it's a little bit hard to see on my screen because the presentation's a bit small, but it looks like there's one kind of area in which the financing is broken out, and then on the next slide the project cost is broken out, and I think just ensuring that those two are kind of squared would also be helpful, squared and aligned. And then in terms of the technical assistance that is being proposed as part of the project, I think it could be helpful to kind of identify what that could include, like what that could look like, and also what entities would be eligible to receive that TA. And then I was also interested in if, and you don't have to answer here, but interested in if you had connected with the Department of Planning's climate finance broker facility that was established, I think, in 2020 by DNP. This was something that the partnership actually worked in parallel with Colombia on, and it seems like there's some elements that could definitely tie in with your project. And then maybe just to finish off, I think it'd be great also to, understand that this is kind of a more of a platform. It's more zoomed out, but it could be great to maybe include some examples of industrial decarbonization projects, just to kind of give an idea as to which specific types of projects the platform would be supporting. Yeah, thanks so much. Back over to you, Simon.
Thank you, Max. Maybe we sorry. Jenny, before I give some remarks myself, would you like to comment or elaborate on Max's evaluation?
Yes, Max, thank you a lot. Yeah, yes, we are working also with the Department of National Planning in Colombia and the Finance Corridor. They are involved in the construction of this path, because as you mentioned, the financial component is one of the more important in the project, and we want to robust the corridor for the industrial sector with this achievement and with this approach and the revolving fund. The kind of projects we are including for the impact estimation, starting from good practices implemented at low cost until high impact or higher cost projects regarding reconversion projects, technological reconversion projects in different types of processes within industry.
Thank you, Jenny. I'll try to be brief because we'll break for coffee, but I think very interestingly, you framed this proposal adequately, and the competitive aspects are very strong in this proposal. It was the last slide, but Jenny, the RCF, the Revolving Catalytic Fund, is, I think, the centerpiece. 4 investment cycle in 60 months is actually ambitious, but it's right. But the design question is whether those cycles recycles to the same firms or whether they reach new entrants. And this is the revolving value that needs to be further elaborated. Actually, when you look at what you propose, the MRV platform may be actually very valuable. Standardized, credible industrial emission data opens carbon market. We heard it here in Korea, open ESG bonds and sustainability-linked loans. So long after actually the project closes. And this is the durable infrastructure, this investment that is embedded in your proposal is building. You mentioned also the CapEx premium, and this is the number this proposal needs to publish is the carbon price at which it's become actually self-sustaining without need to have further grants. And actually, yes, linking the concessional layers is important there. So without it, the investor cannot really analyze their own scenarios there. In the proposal also you, and I think Max mentioned the need to be more explicit in how participation of stakeholders in the proposal, but you mentioned Impulsa as a financial intermediary, which I understand is an innovation agency rather than a commercial bank. And that's an interesting bet there. So we've seen that as arena in South Africa and Vietnam, so this is very something you should develop further. The key variable is whether Impulsa can maintain commercial repayment discipline across the 60 months period or the cycles you presented, or whether the grant logic gradually takes over. And finally, in your proposal, there is 8 million out of the 21 million that remain unfunded. And I think the proposal needs to further elaborate whether this is a phase 1, phase 2 approach, or where the structuring phase closed there. The MDBs in the room will ask to more clarity what they are asking to fund there. So those are my remarks, but I think to further elaborate that this will really support the strengthen the credibility of the proposal.
Thank you.
Any remarks, Jenny, on the, let's say, combined evaluation from Max and myself?
As you ask for Impulsa, Impulsa also have like a capital direction that works with a small enterprises, small and medium enterprises, and also entrepreneurs. We also work with Bancoldex, that is second floor bank that is very close for the Ministry of Industry, and also Ancaria also. But we would like to center the effort to strengthen the capability of Impulsa, as we see them as an ally that can give a permanent assistance, not only in main cities, but also in different regions, and combine like the other elements that we have identified, like technology bank and the permanent assistance for creating the bankable projects pipeline. So we find that they could center all of the other capabilities of other allies like Bancoldex and so on.
Thank you very much, Jenny, and thank you very much also for your time and at a very early hours of the night for you. I think before we go to the coffee break, I'd like to open again the room for questions. Is there anyone who would like to direct a question to Jenny? I see none. I was told by the organizer, apologies for this, there is no coffee break, so we have to stay in the room there. But I think importantly, we need to look at those projects as well as a gradual progress. You heard from Christophe in Burkina Faso and in Colombia, where Max and myself made remarks on how to strengthen, for example, the credibility of Impulsa and others' participation in the project there. And of course, those serve as basically delivering or explaining better the value of the projects we are here presented at the pitch hub there. So with that being saying, I understand we will move to the next presentation that will be delivered by our host country, Korea. So I'd like to invite to the floor Korea for their project presentation. So we are waiting for the persons to come. Hold on with us. Maybe while we wait, maybe we have our physical advisory panels member here. Any remarks so far, maybe, or UNCDF on the proposals we heard?
Thank you. It's a very good opportunity to be here and listen to what country proposals are bringing forward. I found both the proposals very interesting, although very different from each other, but very interesting. For the first one, my view was this, that it's good that we have a strong involvement of the community, and I was also happy to see the gender aspect there. But the biggest thing which was coming to my mind, which I think got addressed towards the later part of the discussion, as to what is the regulatory and political scenario around using those lands in the way that you are proposing to, and how easy or challenging would it be. So thanks, Christophe, you addressed that, but from an investment perspective, even before we come to the revenue stream or what kind of economic opportunities are coming up, the biggest challenge that we tend to address is whether it is going to take off the way that we are envisaging it to be. And sometimes with land usage and with regulatory challenges and the involvement of communities, some similar initiatives can face a lot of hurdles right in the beginning. So I hope you will take good care of that, and you're already thinking in that direction. Also, just wanted to say that from UNCDF perspective, we are gradually moving away from grants completely. We are looking at reimbursable grants and concessional loans and guarantees. So wherever we see that there's a proposal coming up for grant, we try to identify milestones of revenue generation where perhaps the project owners can think of returning the money back so that it can be reinvested into other projects. And that is something that I was looking for in that proposal, that whether it is savings from other economic opportunities that come up, whether it is business cash flows that will happen through the extended activities, how will that money get recycled in the ecosystem is something, if you can present it in the next version, Christophe, I think it will excite more investors to see that how we recycle very limited capital in the current world, and how do we make opportunities available for other projects as well.
Thank you very much, Prerna, for that. Keep those thoughts for the next presentation, of course, we have there, and that also go to Christophe, I would say, remarks there. I understand we have Korea, who is ready for the presentation. Also, I understand Catherine had to go to her next event later. So I will invite Korea on the stands to deliver their presentation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mahima, and I'm from DI Lab on behalf of the Republic of Korea. So we're actually a private entity, and currently we're working on using AI-based climate intelligence to turn weather and climate data into more practical real-time decisions in the agriculture sector for farmers and institutions. So basically our project is being implemented through a COICA-supported ODA initiative. And so through the presentation, I'll sort of walk you through what the problem we're addressing is and how our approach works and what's the impact that we aim to achieve. Next slide, please. Here, sorry. So essentially what we are developing, we like to call it a climate risk AI agent for the Philippines. So we want to develop an AI driven platform that integrates satellite data and radar observations and ground-based IoT sensors. So the idea is basically to move beyond fragmented data and create a more single and reliable source of climate intelligence. So what this means in practice is more precise irrigation, better timing for farming activities, and of course reducing the use of unnecessary inputs like water or fertilizers, all of which contributes to higher emissions. So right now the project is in early pilot phase, and we're focusing now on testing the technology in real world conditions and seeing how this would look during their operations. So what is the exact problem that we're trying to address, right? So globally, agriculture already contributes to 22% of emissions. But the key issue here is not just the emissions, it is the lack of hyperlocal real-time rainfall and weather data that farmers can actually access and use in their daily decisions, right? So because of this data gap, farming tends to be a lot more reactive. And this leads to a lot of over-irrigation and inefficient use of fertilizers, so there's higher emissions and lower productivity. So the core opportunity here is actually quite simple. It's just to close this data gap. So once we address this data gap, the impact itself becomes very tangible. Of course, there's a clear mitigation benefit. When they have better rainfall and weather information, they can time their irrigation, and this reduces energy use. There's also better use of fertilizing application, and this reduces nitrous oxide emissions. At the same time, more accurate forecasts can help you reduce crop losses. So there's no need for replanting, and this is also another hidden source of emissions. So altogether, we're estimating a mitigation impact of 15,000 tons of CO2, and this is estimated based on a 5-year project scope, and currently we are not planning for full-scale implementation yet because it's only in the pilot stage, right? So for the agriculture sector, because we want to specifically work with precipitation or rainfall data, usually what national meteorological agencies use are radar observations. But radar systems are really difficult to maintain and implement. It requires a lot of technical expertise and a lot of funding. So instead of that, we shift onto satellite data. So through our technology, what we do is we bring together data from 5 different geostationary satellites, and we create a seamless global map. So on their own, these satellites, they can give you data at a resolution of about 2 to 3 kilometers every 30 minutes. But to make that information a lot more denser and a lot more continuous, we use AI-based techniques. So we are able to track cloud movement at 5 to 10 minute intervals, and this is a huge step forward for more accurate weather and climate monitoring. Also, because we have satellite records from over 20 years ago, we can also use this sort of long-term data for better climate analysis. So we can study the historical data to see how clouds and rainfall patterns have behaved in the past and make better forecasts using that. So what you see on the right is GSMAP, which is a very popular or widely used global satellite-based precipitation data set developed by Japan, JAXA, their space agency. And it gives you large-scale coverage, but the resolution is only 11 kilometers and it's at like hourly intervals. But what we do sort of builds on this data and goes a step further. So on the left, you can see the output from our system. So the AI radar map, which we call Raincast, it gives you rainfall information at 2-kilometer resolution at intervals of 10 to 15 minutes. So we're moving forward from broad, more generalized data to much more localized and time-sensitive insights. So what I'm trying to say is that we are building a platform that's not just a forecasting tool, but it's supposed to help you support your decisions. So it's turning climate data into more specific actions. While the core of our technology is the real-time rainfall monitoring, we also add an AI-based hazard mapping layer to that, so more specifically for flood risk mapping. So while we're continuously analyzing the rainfall intensity and the spatial patterns, our system can also identify areas on your field that are at high risk of flooding before it even happens. So we are currently working on applying this approach in Indonesia with a large agriculture company. Their main issue was not the lack of data or the inaccessibility of data, but it was the inability to translate that data into specific actions. They needed to know when and where to irrigate and how to optimize their fertilization, and also how to manage their logistics under changing weather conditions, like when it's heavily raining and flooding, right? Now, this is more where we see our platform for the Philippines sort of developing into. So what you see on the right is the OSCA system, which is developed by the APEC Climate Center. It's being already handed over to the Ministry of Agriculture in Vanuatu in the Pacific Islands. It was built under a GCF project. So the OSCA system gives you valuable services such as seasonal forecasts and even planting advisories, and this is based on analysis of soil conditions in Vanuatu. But phase one of this is only giving you information at a macro level and an advisory based level. But DI Lab is going to be collaborating with the APEC Climate Center in phase 2, where our role would be to integrate our rainfall data into their existing database so that we can give you more precise, site-specific, and time-sensitive information, which goes directly to the farmers. So these are the components of our project. So first, we will be focusing on improving the quality of the ground observation data, and this is through automated quality control systems that we have developed, and also we'll be retraining and localizing our precipitation model. Second, we will build the core monitoring infrastructure itself, and then validate and continuously improve our system using the local observations. Finally, we want to develop a holistic CIS dashboard that's going to translate all of this data into actionable insights and alerts. But the most important part of this approach is co-development, because we're building the system together with PAGASA, which is the meteorological agency in the Philippines, and also taking in inputs from local stakeholders. We want to make sure that this fits within their operational needs and their existing workflows. The overall goal is to make sure that this becomes a standalone system that they can operate, maintain, and scale independently. So to put this in a longer-term perspective, we are currently in year 2, where we are deploying and testing the pilot system in real-time conditions, and we are continuously collecting feedback. But from year 4 onwards, we want to shift the focus towards scaling and institutionalizing the dashboard. So starting to integrate this into their policy and all of their operational frameworks. By year 5, we want wider adoption and to move towards full independent ownership. And so this obviously includes transferring the operations and ensuring that this system can be sustained and maintained locally. So this is just a brief of the project itself. So like I said, it's being implemented under COICA's Creative Technology Solution Program. We are currently in Seed 1. In terms of our local partners, we are working closely with Pagasa. They're our main government counterpart. We're also engaging with the Department of Agriculture, as well as several research institutions. In addition, the APEC Climate Center is also supporting our research, and Kyunghee University here in Korea is going to be our technical partner. So they're going to be helping us ensuring that our AI model is refined and developed to the local conditions. This was just the proof of concept. So we conducted this last year, where we received radar data from Pagasa. And what you see on the top is the data from their radars that are on the ground. And the bottom is the output from our AI radar map. So clearly there's a difference. Our output is a lot more seamless. There's no coverage gaps, and there's much more precise precipitation tracking. So one of the key challenges we've faced so far is, of course, financing and long-term sustainability. This type of system is essentially a public good, and because it's also an emerging technology, it requires a lot of significant upfront investment and data infrastructure, and of course, we need capacity building, because we need for our counterparts to be able to handle these systems on their own and develop them further if need be. At the same time, our primary users are government agencies, right? So in our case, Pagasa has made it very clear that they do not want to and they cannot take on any financial risk, especially in the early stages, and they want assurance that the funding will come from external sources. We fully agree with this approach and understand it, but right now, of course, we cannot guarantee a single long-term funding source. Funding for projects like this is typically secured progressively, right, on a grant basis. And so our focus right now is on actively securing sort of continuous external funding for the next phases of the project. We are engaging with organizations like GCF, ADB, the FAO, all of whom already have ongoing programs with Pagasa. We want to integrate our system within their existing scope instead of creating a separate funding burden, right? So in the long term, what this is going to look like, we want our model to become a subscription-based service once the model is scaled and it's proven its value. So to summarize the impact of this project, at the core, it's about using better climate data to reduce unnecessary inputs and improve efficiency in agriculture. We don't want these changes to be one time, because we're aiming for this to be more integrated into the operations. We want it to scale across farms and regions and eventually at the national level. So the mitigation will be coming from making everyday decisions that are a lot more efficient and consistent and data-driven, right? Because at DI Lab, what we believe is that better data leads to better decisions, and of course, better decisions leads to lower emissions and stronger resilience. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mahima. I think it's an interesting proposal addressing the use of AI in agriculture. And this is not a conventional mitigation project, no? And so this is precisely what is worth spending time today on there. I'd like to give directly the floor to Catherine, ADB there. So we heard about digital agriculture today. What is the investment case for AI-driven agri-emission reduction? And how, particularly from my perspective, how do you assess innovation risk when the technology is technically sound? We heard it from Mahima now, but it's commercially unproven at this scale.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously this is very different to the other proposals that we've heard, that this is private sector financing, right? So for ADB, we have public and private sector lending together. But this is actually a relatively small proposal in a way. Usually proposals that go to MDBs are much larger. we do actually have a venture fund at ADB that's looking at this, but I think then, as you highlighted, you have this issue that the first part of funding you need is kind of venture capital, and then you need to transition to a longer term sustainable financing model. And so I think you're aware of that issue, but that will actually also be the key issue for the funder. I think also when you're looking for this size funding, a small ticket that perhaps is quite high risk, you really need to look at the key indicators and objectives of the funding source too. So often people write proposals to tell you as much as they can about their project, but you then need to tailor that proposal to each funding source that you're applying to, because it will have different objectives. I think the country context is very good. I live in the Philippines. It's a big issue, rainfall, but the sector is difficult, and I think you really have to be realistic about the social transition associated with getting farmers to switch to a data-based system, particularly if you have traditional farming methods, high levels of informality, and what is actually the process that will be there to make this data used and the system used. Because unless you can guarantee the long-term use of the system, then the concept of the subscription-based revenue model will be difficult to. So I think high attention to the cultural issue around transition and use. Also, I guess the underlying question is the quality of the data. So you said you would use historical data, but obviously weather data is changing so rapidly, and our predictions are actually, it's changing much more rapidly than predictions. So I think a deep dive into the data and the ability to manage that. And I also wasn't clear how you could cross-map different hazards. So obviously it's looking at rainfall, but how you might look at issues that also apply in the Philippines, like heat and drought, and whether that can also be, so that's just from a technology angle, how that would be put in. And then I think also in terms of scalability, so obviously this proposal is very much looking at Pagasa and the capacity of that particular use case, but with a venture fund, they are still looking at the potential for replication. So how in different country contexts in the region or different markets, how do issues like data availability, use, long-term use, and that apply in different contexts? So I think even if you apply for funding for a specific case, it's always good to be able to show that it could also apply in a different context, and so that you have the potential to replicate. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, for those remarks. I think very useful, of course, for the future of the progress of this project, which is ongoing. Mention different phases. I think what you mentioned, of course, the social acceptance of project is important there. You live in the Philippines, so you probably are very much aware of the issues there. Data-driven systems needs to be also discussed, and you mentioned in proposal capacity building. I think that's important, and it was reinforced. With that being said, Catherine has, Kate, sorry, you have to go to your next engagements. Thank you very much for your remarks and advice to the proposal there. I think the proponent really valued your remarks there. Thank you so much. I'm going to switch to the virtual advisor, Rosa Stella and Bulu from MAF there. I take you can hear us?
Yes, good morning. I can hear you very well.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being with us. Rosa Stella, from the mitigation facility perspective for MAF, how do you advise project developer on managing dual risk of technology, let's say maturity and emission verification uncertainty? So really how to make this project really directly credible when they're going to pitch it to different donors there?
Yes, thank you so much for this question. From the mitigation action facility perspective, we normally look at investments in technologies that are already tested and are ready to be rolled out. We are happy to invest in technologies at pilot stage to test the technology. And a major requirement, of course, for this is to ensure that there is a proper strategy for communicating learning from such a project. And here, I think this project has a good potential for a good lighthouse project within that context. However, a quick check online actually revealed that there are actually already quite a few projects that are looking at the implementation of AI for decision-making in agriculture in the Philippines. And with a great involvement of Pagasa itself, I'm happy to see that this project is working together with Pagasa. And of course, the biggest question, and based on what you have presented, I'll be interested to understand why the country ownership seems to be so low, especially because you referred to the fact that Pagasa is pretty much reluctant on investing or co-investing in this project. It's seeing the benefit that it stands to provide for the country, especially in terms of contribution towards the achievement of the NDCs in the agricultural sector. I would be very much interested to know why there seems to be a bit of a reluctance here, and the country co-ownership seems to be reduced. I would also like to understand from a mitigation action facility perspective, what would be the additionality of this project? Because I quickly saw that there is a project called Sirai, which is really looking at doing exactly what you're doing with the same institution, Pagasa. And I would like to know whether this is the same project, whether this project is actually building up on this specific project that I'm referring to. I think the Sarai project is also looking at water balance assisted irrigation scheduling systems. So that would be a major question from the mitigation action facilities perspective, because for us, additionality needs to be proven, and it's actually pretty much an exclusion factor from our perspective. Now, in addition to what has been asked, I would also be interested to know what would be the business model for this intervention. And perhaps for your further development of your proposal, it would be great for you to just include a business model that actually can provide some indication of the bankability of this measure in the long term, especially if you are looking at replication in another context. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa Stella, also for being with us there. Mahima, Kate had to go, but you heard from the two advisors certain elements there. How do you reflect with the development of this proposal, and also maybe the disruption it creates in this very established sector like agriculture?
Right, so going back to what Kathleen was talking about, where there's a lot more climate impact that we need to consider, like heat. I couldn't put it in my presentation, but we also work with IoT sensors. So these sensors, they pick up anything like heat, wind, rainfall, and all of that information is also integrated into our platform. So again, it's not just rainfall, but we want to give a more holistic view on, you know, the climate or environmental patterns that's happening at the site level. And what was brought up right now regarding, of course, the hesitation with country ownership, I think we have to remember that, again, because we are coming from the private sector, I think Pagasa is a little bit hesitant to fully give us their confirmation for this project. They want sort of the assurity that they will have zero financial contributions. And again, this is just a pilot project. We're still testing the, the replicability of it. So we require their cooperation and understanding, to see that if we can develop this technology together and see how beneficial it can be for them together. I think from our last visit with Pagasa, they've had a few bad experiences with the private sector where they just come in with these promises, take their data and then commercialize it. But again, what we want to emphasize is co-development. So we want to build them a system of their own, right? And yes, we are aware there are a lot of similar projects in the Philippines, but I think where we sort of win is with the resolution or the quality of our data. It's really site-specific, so this means from one farm plot to the other. And yes, we do understand that there is a difference or a difficulty in making sure that farmers can shift to this sort of data-driven operations. But what I think is that the Department of Agriculture has a system where they have local government units that work closely with the farmers. So if we're able to access already the setup that is within the institutions, then I think this could be a lot more beneficial for them. We're not just trying to come from outside and drop this technology on them and tell them to use it. We really want to work from the inside and do a bottom-up approach, right? So yeah, that's what I wanted to clarify.
Thank you so much. I think, yeah, a very promising, I would say also very timely, I'd say, project there. You heard about Kate, probably you need to increase the ambition to attract more MDB to the project, but I'm sure with basically the pilots, you can scale that to many countries that actually are needing these aspects. One remarks out of my work in solar CSP, you mentioned cloud coverage. There is ample work done in this field that had actually studied the issue of aerosol distribution in the air and that. So you can maybe explore what this community has done in this effect there. So thank you so much for those and very much good luck for the development of this proposal further with KOICA and the government of Korea. Thank you so much. I can also invite the colleagues, both Christophe and Mahima, to leave the floor there. So thank you very much, because we're going to go to the next project in Liberia here. So Liberia, it's about clean energy access. So energy access, local SME growth, and also the transition with biomass there. We have here to present this project Emmanuel from Liberia. So we are addressing LULUCF and clean cooking as well here. So Emmanuel, I will invite you to the floor. So thank you for joining us today, Emmanuel. Obviously, we heard about agriculture, industry decarbonization. We are now trying to tackle energy access, a very different perspective on challenges and opportunity for West Africa. So you also heard before the intervention from the different colleagues there. So really looking forward for your presentation and how the layered approach can deliver value for your country. You have the clicker here and the microphone to go to the presentation, yes.
Well, thank you for the opportunity given me to present to you Clean Smart. Clean Smart is a project, it's a transformative project addressing energy access, SME growth, and a Liberia transition while delivering significant climate mitigation. You can see the project at a glance. It's a revenue generating and technical assistance project right now at the stage is at the structuring phase and concept proving. This project targets 5 counties, and the reason for selecting the 5 counties is these 5 counties are going through severe pressure when it comes to deforestation. So we took the 5 counties based on that. These 5 counties, like Gabon, Maigibi, and Maryland, Nima River G, focus on the rural, parallel, urban, SME, and household. When you look at the vulnerability of Liberia, Liberia faces severe climate risks that threaten lives, livelihood, and development. The vulnerabilities are compounded by limited infrastructure and dependence on rainfall, agricultural, and biomass energy. The GHG emission profile and mitigation needs of Liberia. While land use emission dominate, inefficient biomass and fossil fuel use in households and SME drives short-life climate pollutants and deforestation. Clean Smarts directly target these high impact areas. Alignment with the national priorities and NDC 3.0. The project directly supports Liberia NDC 3.0 2035. Also support the government arrest agenda for inclusive development and economic transformation pillar. Clean Smart is fully owned by Liberia and operationalized key NDC priorities, including skilling renewables and providing clean cooking to households while reducing deforestation. The root causes and key barrier. Social, you see the traditional cooking practices, women disproportionately burdened. You will see the financial availability and high upfront cost, limited access to finance. These interconnected barriers prevent skill up. This project addresses them holistically through integrated component, not isolated intervention. This is the components of our project. Sustainable biomass transition and household energy access, which is component 1 and component 2. You can see the output and the outcomes of our project. 50,000 improved cook stove, sustainable charcoal chain, community agroforestry. So you see reduce deforestation, black carbon, and improve health. Also 200 SME transition renewable system for productive use, and the outcome there is lower emissions, higher productivity, and job creation. Component 3 is talking about training, capacity building, and MRV. We're talking about skill up workforce and so forth. And our objective of this project is to foster economic growth by accelerating the transition from traditional biomass and fossil fuel dependence to sustainable, productive, and inclusive renewable energy solution in Liberia. Our goal is systemic change, clean energy, stronger SME, healthier communities, and measurable emissions reduction. Theory of change, behavior change, gender responsive, and awareness. So the project integrates demand, supply, and governance for irreversible systemic transformation. Mitigation impact. It is estimated based on the previous budget of this project of 455,000 tons of CO2 heat will be reduced over the project lifespan. That has to do with 5 years implementation period. This conservative climate focus on, these conservative estimate focus on verified activity data and emission factor with robust MRV ensuring credibility. Implementation arrangement. Hybrid arrangements ensure national ownership while leveraging international expertise and fiduciary standards. Revenue stream and financial sustainability. The project is designed for revenue generation and gradual transition to commercial viability. Justification and funding and blended finance. Without concessional support, this intervention cannot reach scale or the most vulnerable. The blended model ensures efficient and leverage. Business model and summary, because this project has to do with sustainability, so we designed a business model for the sustainability of this project. That has to do with integrated clean energy plus SME growth plus sustainable biomass. This model creates shared value, climate benefit, plus economic opportunities. Sustainability and exit strategy. Sustainability is built in through market creation and institutional strengthening with clear monitoring to ensure lasting impact. Expected transformative impact. Like I mentioned earlier, it is estimated to reduce greenhouse gas up to 455 tons of CO2 plus black carbon. SLCP benefit. Economic, SME productivity, job creation, local value chain. This project delivers core benefit aligned with GCF criteria, mitigation, sustainable development, and country ownership. Call to action as I conclude. Next step, partner with us to structure and implement Clean Smart, contribute to blended finance, technical expertise, or co-financing. We invite partnership to turn this concept into on-the-ground impact. Together, we can support Liberia NDC and contribute to global climate goal. Key message: accelerating clean and sustainable development in Liberia for climate, communities, and growth. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to your questions and answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and also thank you for being a good conclusion of your presentation. You tackle clean cooking, SME energy access, and biomass transition in West Africa, and of course in Liberia, in a fragile environment. It, I think, touched a lot of mandates we are here addressing there. I'd like to turn directly to Prerna from UNCDF. What instrument does actually CDF have for clean energy access at the SME level for country like Liberia, fragile context, and have you seen this work in terms of financing architecture?
Thank you. First of all, congratulations to Emmanuel for a wonderful presentation, and the way you ended it with a very strong call to action. That was very impressive. Maybe I can take a moment to say a little bit about how UNCDF is working in fragile markets, and the point that was made in the previous presentation from ADB about the ticket size, to link it with that. UNCDF, I think, is the only entity in the UN system which has a strong mandate to support businesses in fragile markets, both from the private sector as well as the public sector. And our ticket sizes are actually where other MDBs don't make a lot of intervention. So 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, which is very small ticket size for others, is our preferred size of transactions. And we do that because we think that this is where the gap is, particularly in least developing countries and in fragile markets. So particularly for this one, I think it's a good proposal. It brings out the case for the link with NDCs, what is needed in the country. It's good to see that you're already mapping revenue streams, which is important when you're coming to make an investor's pitch. So you're mapping you have a PPA in place, or you're working on it. You said power purchase agreement.
Power purchase agreement.
Yeah.
Right now, as I speak to you, you all know that Liberia went through a prolonged civil crisis. As I speak to you, we face with Liberia is grappling with LEC, electricity right now. So there is an arrangement. This is why we're going to contract people in implementing this concept note.
Great. Yeah, so the good points about the proposal is this, that there is identification of revenue streams, there is PPA, they're talking about working with underserved communities with clean cookstoves. What I would like to see more, if we are discussing this further with any investor, is that you are saying that the project cost is 25 million, and 3 million is the co-financing,
Yes.
which is less than even, which is a very small amount. So what is the breakup of that 22 million? Maybe if you can share that in the future stage. And these clean cookstoves, I've had experience where communities sometimes struggle with the repair and maintenance of cookstoves, and that kind of changes their experience about the whole clean cooking systems. So please take care of that when you are working on the supply chain as to who's providing this and whether you are able to put clear maintenance service for the livelihoods, households. Otherwise, this may not come across with the impact that you're looking at. Then you talk a lot about job creation and value chains. It will be great if you also put some numbers around how many jobs you think can get created, what kind of value chains will get impacted because investors love numbers. So if you give those kind of numbers, also some metrics on better health outcomes. Definitely it's going to result into better health of the communities, but if you link it with what is the present status and where they will be in the future after this 5 years of project, health of women, health of children, I think that will kind of become very appealing data set for investors to look into this project. So just strengthen it from those perspectives, and I think it will be much better, but a great start. Thank you.
Thank you, Prerna, for those advice to the proposal there. I'm also one of the advisory feedback. Maybe we can compound, and I will ask you to respond there. So, as Prerna mentioned, I think the framing and the layering is right. Cookstove for household adoption, sustainable charcoal for structural chain, and renewable energy for productive uses for SME is very appealing there. Our work at Arena actually on distributed energy showed that this layer up approach consistently outperform single technology choices there. So that's the right way there. It was mentioned, but the certification of the charcoal market will make or break your proposal there. So unregulated charcoal in Liberia is effectively an open access resource. A certified market needs enforceable land tenure there. Needs functional verification, and also needs to address the consumer price premium. So how much money more the consumer will have this. And you mentioned the specific context of Liberia we need to address the land governance there. So this is important there. And this is actually the harder thing, and you are acutely aware to build. So what is the baseline assumption on charcoal supply chain governance? So how do we bring charcoal to this project there? One aspect, and I mentioned before, is about improving how you present the risk and the risk mitigation in your project. One of the important risks needs to be addressed is the reversal rate for cook stoves. This is the silent risk that will also can kill the proposal there. Our work on clean cooking shows that 40 to 60% adoption dropout within 3 years without sustained demand-side engagement there. So that's really something that you need to address there. The 370,000 tons credited for cook stove assume the 50,000 units remain active, used throughout there. So you need to address the dropout that is, let's say, evident when you're looking at that. The SME components you mentioned is very interesting. 2,000 businesses with renewable systems there. So if these are genuine productive use loads, cold storage, agri-processing, the adoption incentive will be durable, long-lasting in Liberia there. So if it's a voluntary uptake after installation, the projection might not hold. So you need, and it was mentioned, addressing like the baseline scenario, but also a worst and let's say optimistic scenario, and with different assumptions there. The arrest agenda that you presented is institutional capital, so this is very good. The economic transformation pillar creates, let's say, a pathway for domestic policy adoption there. This is how sustainable exit from the grant works, not by withdrawing support, but by directing through domestic institutional architecture that you are presented there. You need to also address the revenue model there, and it was mentioned for the structuring phase there. When the grant support ends after year 5, I would say, does the unit economics hold at commercial level? When mentioned PPA there, but you need to look at pay-as-you-go repayment rates and so on. So those are the metrics you can use to really ensure that donors will be confident about the future of this market there. Last but not least, I want to mention this is the type of proposal Irina also trackled to our platform. The ETAF platform can also be a vector toward addressing and source, I would say, capital for this proposal. So really try, and I invite you to look at our ETAF platform and CIP platform that we are proposing for this type of project on clean cooking, for example, there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any remarks, any observations there?
Yes, thank you so much. The pay-as-you-go is mentioned in the PPT, but I was like giving overview and summary of the PPT, so I couldn't read word by word, but some of these things are already mentioned in the PPT. But thank you all so much. I take your advice, and we're going to work according to the pieces of advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I'll invite you there. So good luck with the proposal, of course, there. We're not going to leave Africa. We're actually going to go in a different country there. And I will invite now to the floor to a presentation in Malawi. So we're going to discuss methane capture, energy recovery from a municipal solid waste perspective there. So thank you very much. Yes. Thank you. Yes. And I invite Malawi to the floor. Thank you so much. And I think we have a dual speaker format for this one. And of course, you can present wherever you want. Yes. Yes. So here we are actually tackling municipal infrastructure in Southern Africa. Linglongwe landfill methane project is actually a reminder that some of the highest emission sectors are also the most unglamorous one, but often the more actionable one there. So Stella, over to you, tackle this project on methane capture and energy recovery. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. As you highlighted, it is a dual presentation. So the first part of the presentation will be done by my boss, the Director General of Malawi Environment Protection Authority. So I don't know our technicians if my boss is online yet.
So it's an online intervention? Online?
Yes,
okay.
The Director General will be online.
Okay. Director General, can you hear us? So we have two choices, Stella. Either we wait that the technical solution works, or you start and then we have the Director General to conclude. Up to you.
Okay, I will start. I will present the concept, and then the Director General will talk more about the institution, the Malawi Environment Protection Authority, and our relationship with waste management.
Okay. Sounds good. Over to you then, and then we have the segment with the Director General after that.
So I'll go straight into the concept where we are talking about the disaster of waste and garbage in the Lilongwe city. Lilongwe is the capital of Malawi, but till now, we do not have an organized landfill or waste dumping system. If you look at this slide, in 2023, the Malawi Environment Protection Authority fined the Lilongwe City Council 5 million Malawi kwacha for failing to meet a deadline set for the relocation of the current dump site. So when the Lilongwe City was being set up, they created an area which it's just an open space for dumping waste. And it is all sorts of waste: chemicals, glass, organic waste, plastics, market waste. Sometimes even some hospitals will go and dump waste here. So it's all sorts of waste coming to this open dump site. So since 2023, nothing has been done. And recently in March, the Parliament invited the Lilongwe City Council to Parliament to explain why they have still not relocated from the current open dump sites. There is no landfill. There is no other dump site. There is no organized waste management in the Lilongwe City. So the Lilongwe City has no option. So it means every time the Malawi Environment Protection Authority goes to the dump site, they will continue to fine the Lilongwe City Council. So that's why we came up with this idea of preparing this concept so that we should have an organized landfill. So the challenge that we have now, the barrier that is there now, is that the key barrier is access to finance, to develop, to build this landfill. The City Council does not have the finances, and MEPA is supposed to regulate waste management. We do not have the capacity to regulate waste management in Malawi, and let alone in the Lilongwe City. So if you come to Lilongwe City, whether you're coming to Malawi for a meeting or on your holidays, one thing that you notice is that there is garbage everywhere. In the residential areas, there is garbage. In industries, in factories, there is a lot of unmanaged garbage. So there is garbage everywhere. And in the dump site, the one that we are talking about, the Lilongwe City dump site, the open dump site, it is also a place where communities go to scavenge for waste that they can use, whether it's food waste, clothes, sometimes even waste. For example, there is a pottery company which will go and dump pottery waste to this dump site. And on this particular day, it is a feast for the communities so that they go and scavenge for pottery parts they can take to their homes. And this is a risk to their lives. So the river banks of the Lilongwe River. Lilongwe City, the name comes from the Lilongwe River, which goes, the river meanders through the Lilongwe City. So everywhere you go on the Lilongwe River banks, you will find waste being dumped. And some of it will also go into the river, choking the river, as well as where it is going, which goes further into the lake. There is more and more stinking waste, and this is the capital city of Malawi. There is political will to manage the city waste, and recently, just last month, the president issued an order that we need urgent action for sanitation and hygiene throughout the country. And one of them, it is waste management, that the waste that is collected from households, from offices, from factories, from markets, from all institutions and establishments, it should be well managed. So we are happy that there is that high-level political will on waste management, sanitation, and hygiene. And there are also local efforts. Institutions have taken up this call to manage waste. Even households have taken up this call to manage waste. However, the question is, where will this garbage go? Because the key challenge that we have is that there is substandard final disposal of this garbage. Households might manage it, markets, institutions, establishments, factories might manage their waste properly, but we do not have a landfill. So where will this garbage go? So the substandard final destination of this garbage being managed by households is a key challenge. So that's why we have come up with this concept, integrated landfill management and methane capture project for the Lilongwe City. So we are looking forward to financial assistance, technical assistance, and also institutional capacity development assistance so that the Lilongwe City is able to manage waste and also get other core benefits. We are still in the early phases of project development, and our estimated budget is about 65 million with core financing of $3 million US from the government of Malawi, including the local government. We are expecting that it will be a grant. Malawi is a least developed country, so we are looking forward to a partner who can give us a grant. Estimated duration for project financing for disbursement of project funds is expected to be at 5 years, where we are developing the project, the infrastructure, and also the governance issues of the project. However, the project lifespan, when we have the landfill, it should go beyond the 5 years. So the project description. The integrated landfill management and methane capture project for Lilongwe City is a climate mitigation and urban resilient initiative aimed at transforming municipal solid waste management through the development of an engineered sanitary landfill system. And we want to combine this with methane capture and utilization technologies. The project will transform the existing open dump sites into a controlled landfill. It will deploy a landfill gas collection system, and capture methane will be utilized for energy generation, contributing to greenhouse gas emission reduction. The project will also integrate waste management, waste segregation, material recovery, and recycling systems. In addition, the intervention includes strengthening institutional and operational capacity within the Lilongwe City Council, improving their waste collection capabilities, and also improving transportation system for the Lilongwe City Council. As for my organization, which is the Malawi Environment Protection Authority, we are expecting that the project will enhance institutional capacity for MEPA so that we establish robust monitoring, reporting frameworks to ensure transparency, accountability, and eligibility for finance mechanisms, and also our capacity to monitor greenhouse gas emissions for the nation. The project is also expected to deliver significant core benefits, including reduced methane emissions. Other core benefits include improved urban environmental quality, enhanced public health outcomes, and increased access to energy. But we're also hoping that we will work with the scavengers to ensure that they participate in the core benefits that the landfill project will bring. The project aligns with the Malawi NDC and supports global climate objectives under the Paris Agreement and the UNFCCC. As I highlighted, Malawi is a least developed country with less than 1% of historical emissions. Our GDP is only 11 billion, with a population of 18 million and at 2018. And this was projected to reach 23 million by 2026. So we should be around 23 million at 2026. For the Lilongwe City, it is expected that now we are almost 1.5 4 million people. So that's a lot of waste coming from these people, because there is a lot of urbanization, people migrating to the city. So waste is an opportunity that we can turn into other products like energy. National poverty, people living at $2 or maybe under $2 a day. National circumstances continued. Malawi is climate vulnerable, as I highlighted, with rapid population growth that increases pressure on waste management systems. Malawi cities, all the cities in Malawi, there is widespread open waste dumping. People just throw garbage anywhere. There is no proper management. The waste that is collected is only 30%, and this is collected by the city of Lilongwe and also some other private individuals who have joined the waste collection. But when they still go to the dump site, sometimes they do not even reach the dump site. They will just dump waste anywhere near the dump site, and sometimes closing the access road to the dump site. The waste that is not collected will block city drainage, will just be dumped anywhere in markets, in residential areas, posing a risk to public health and also methane emissions. So we are hoping that the project, under the project design, the project will have an integrated system approach. The waste should be collected effectively, and to develop an engineered landfill, installation of landfill gas capture system, and also ensure that we have some energy recovery from the methane captured. We should improve the waste management in the Lilongwe city. We should be able to sort waste and also establish recycling facilities and improve waste collection and from the residential areas, from factories, from everywhere, and also transportation of waste to the landfill. We should set up also environmental control systems for waste management and also environmental control systems at the landfill. Institutional and MRV framework should be strengthened and well managed. So waste management capacity building for Lilongwe City Council and strengthened regulatory oversight for MEBA. We are also hoping that through the project, Malawi should be able to access more climate finance and also carbon markets. As I indicated in my introduction through the photos, there is poor waste disposal and management practices in the Lilongwe city.
Stella, we have 1 minute more.
Uncontrolled methane emissions, and only 30% of the waste is collected. The project objectives are as follows: to develop and operate an engineered sanitary landfill to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to enhance resource recovery and circular economy practices for the Lilongwe city. Key components of the project include institutional capacity development for the Lilongwe City and also for the Environment Protection Authority, turning waste to energy, infrastructure development, waste management, governance of waste, coordination of stakeholders who are managing waste in the Lilongwe City, but also to ensure that we work together with the communities surrounding the landfill and dump sites. MEPA is expected to be the lead agency and work with the Lilongwe City Council and other stakeholders, including the Energy Ministry. We believe that this project is feasible. Technologies are there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. It will present financial benefits to Malawi, and also institutional capacity is to be enhanced, and the project aligns already with the NDCs, the Malawi strategies, and also the Paris Agreement. There are positive impacts of the project, as already highlighted, from reduced methane emissions, a clean Lilongwe City, and a healthy Malawi. Yeah, so it is possible that we can have a clean city, no dumping everywhere, proper management of waste, and also get benefits such as energy and good health if we get financing for this project concept note. So we are looking forward to partners who can finance the MEPA and Lilongwe City for this project. I don't know if my boss is online so that he can
I was told there is connection issues, but we'll try one more time if the Director General is online. Otherwise, we'll move to the advisory feedback. Yes, so we have the Director General online.
Yes, I am in attendance. Thank you.
Yes. Warm welcome, Director General. So we heard from Stella a very comprehensive presentation of the project, and she concluded on the, I would say, that every citizen of the city deserves a clean city, of course, there, and highlighted the role of your organization in that project. Maybe you can provide us some, let's say, overall remarks on the project and how you address the problem that was identified there.
Well, thank you very much. Malawi Environment Protection Authority is a relatively new entity created to make sure that the right to a clean and healthy environment for Malawians is provided for. And we have been struggling in areas of energy and waste management in general, which lead to a lot of health issues and environmental mishap. So MEPA, as presented, working together with Lilongwe City Council and indeed other regulators and government entities, we are charged to make sure that this right to a clean and healthy environment is accorded to all Malawians. And that's what we do through enforcement of the environmental regulations. We also issue permits and conduct environmental and social impact assessments, as well as making sure that biodiversity is conserved and climate change management is done right. These are coming from the Malawi Constitution, making sure that everyone's right to a clean and healthy environment is provided for, and that nothing is taken away from enjoyment of a clean and healthy environment. And we operate through the Malawi Environment Act, called the Environment Management Act, and that's where also we have our powers from creation to providing the services that we are mandated. Presently, we are working in line with the Malawi 2063 agenda, which is looking at improving and doing urbanization well, and also managing industrialization and improving our agriculture productivity and commercialization. So those are a few remarks that I would give to introduce Malawi Environment Protection Authority and the role that we have in the country and contribution that is expected of us towards the national agenda, and through that we also contribute to the various global goals. Thank you very much. I submit.
Thank you very much, Director General, for those remarks. I'd like to turn to Perena for her feedback on the proposal. We briefly discussed that there is a clear scope for CDF to look at that, and of course, this is also about issue with local public finance. So, what are the key financing architecture decisions that make a waste-to-energy project bankable in a, it was mentioned, an LDC, low-income context there?
Thank you. Stella, you made a very strong pitch about the need and the critical nature of this project and the urgency around it. From UNCDF perspective, we are going very strong on sub-national level financing. So this project, I think, ticks a lot of boxes in terms of LDC, in terms of sub-national financing, also the waste to energy. However, the amount is quite huge, coming straight to the point. 65 million project, 62 million grant or concessional loan is quite a huge amount for us to do it all by ourselves. And in such situations, what we recommend is that we look at blended finance tools, we look at structures which can bring in other partners, possibly also bring in some private capital. So looking at, I mean, I primarily work in Asia, but I will also refer this to my colleagues in Africa to see if we can create structures where UNCDF can either support the MEPA authority to come up with a bond, or maybe develop a guarantee structure wherein we can provide de-risking to the other local institutions or other banks or FIs who may want to come and partner in this project, but right now maybe do not feel comfortable with the risk involved in the project. But UNCDF provides guarantees and de-risking instruments for such. As I said earlier, we are moving away from pure grant, traditional grant-based projects, so we are looking for projects where it could be a reimbursable grant or a concessional loan, even as low as 2 or 5%, but the money comes back for other projects, and then de-risking instruments, so, and then bonds. So any of these or all of these at the right stage of the project can be structured to get money flowing to this important initiative. I would like to mention that in Tanzania, we did a bond with the local water utility authority, and which is very successful and is now double listed, not just in the local market, but also in Luxembourg stock market. So I think we need some financial engineering for the amount involved here and for the critical nature of the project. So maybe we should get into the details of it along with my colleagues in Africa. One important thing which is coming to my mind is there is a very strong need to develop I think a social campaign around behavioral change, because so many times you talked about how people need to be educated, their habits need to be changed, and until that happens, no matter how much investment we do, we may not get the desired outcome. So maybe a request to you and the local government to look at designing that along with it, and also maybe identifying some local champions who could lead it as community level. Otherwise, we may not get the success that we are looking for. And then another point which I mentioned, that when we talk to investors for projects like this, I think it's important to capture metrics around all possible outcomes that we are looking for. You talked so much about waste recycling, but then what are the kind of jobs that we will create, number of people who will get employment, how livelihoods, health will get better, what kind of savings we will have. So I urge all the people who are presenting pitches today or are developing proposals to bring all that. Maybe today we didn't have enough time to get into all that, but please do spend a lot of time in articulating that, because that is what influences people's mind to invest money in a project. Just giving one-dimensional impact will not, I think, be sufficient for raising these kinds of big amounts that we are looking at. So I'll stop there, but this is definitely something that we can discuss further along with my colleagues in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So a referral invitation, but also some examples very useful on bonds and blended finance there. Of course, municipal waste methane remains unglamorous, but it's exactly why it deserves serious attention. And you mentioned, of course, this is a high emission, well understood technology. So I think you embedded in a real city challenge. So all of that can attract attention to this project at the right scale. I'm going to call Rosa Stella from MAF to come in. Rosa Stella, the methane recovery has relatively actually predictable carbon revenue stream. Does that make the project easier to finance than they appear, or are there structural barriers that carbon revenue alone cannot solve?
Thank you so much for this question and also for the possibility to be here. At onset, I think I didn't take the opportunity earlier to explain how the Mitigation Action Facility works. It's a multi-donor facility that provides grant funding for projects in 3 priority sectors, which is energy, transport, and industry. And we provide between 5 to 25 million euros per project. And the grant funding that we provide for should catalyze further funding from the private and public sector. And this is in line with what was just now stated from UNCDF. And I would just like to state that this project as presented is a project that potentially fits within the measures that are normally funded by the facility. We operate via annual competitive calls, and we provide funding for projects in ODA eligible countries. And this means that Malawi would qualify for such funding. I took note that the presenter, Stella, really emphasized on the fact that the country is an LDC and grant funding would be required for this project. And I tend to agree with what was presented by UNCDF, that it is really important to make sure that the project does not only rely on grant funding alone, but uses grant funding as an instrument to actually leverage additional funding. And here, to add to what was stated already with regards to combining grants with concessional loan funding, I would also like to urge you to consider including private sector investors in this measure, which could also bring in equity and also improve the bankability of the project based on their own balance sheets. And I also would like to just highlight that a project like this would also have to differentiate between which investments, CAPEX investments, need to be funded via grant funding and which can be funded via loans. And also to take into account that even if this project were to be entirely grant funded, operational costs would still ensue. And if there is no proper business case underlying this measure, then the measure will actually collapse as soon as the grant funding expires. So I think it's important to really make sure that you do have a financial mechanism that is sustainable and it's underpinned by a proper business case that really can ensure consistent and sustainable revenue streams, and to ensure that the funding is expended in a way that makes best use of the sources, maybe focusing the grant funding more on non-income generating assets like the trucks and so on, but then the operationalization of these would still require revenue streams that are constant and sustainable. I also just wanted to highlight that it's actually quite encouraging to see that Malawi has a regulatory framework that is conducive for this kind of investments. You do have PPA-related regulations, you have PPP-related regulations in place, you have feed-in tariffs policies in place. Perhaps when moving forward with this project, just to make sure that your TA component really encompasses all activities that are required to make sure that all the barriers that you've identified, whether it's now what relates to behavioral barriers or economic barriers or capacity barriers are properly addressed. And the TA measure can also make provision for activities that are geared towards making sure that the financial investments can ensue on the ground.
Thank you very much, Rosa Stella, for those remarks there. I maybe invite Stella and her Director General, maybe if available, to comment or reflect on those perspectives, both from CDF, mentioning the size of the project and the architecture, but also the elements raised by Rosa Stella on the MAF ability to support this project there.
Bwana DG, are you online?
Yes, I am. I'm still here.
Yeah, do you have any reflections on what the panel has observed?
Yep. First and foremost, the issue of the amount, and that we would have to look at co-funding sources available. We also, on that one, would latch on the support from the partners and those who are in our hearing. Because when we look at waste management in Malawi as a problem, it's so huge, and the need to tackle it is even bigger, which is what resulted in the concept, the way it has been provided, and also the enormity of what needs to be done. But I'm also latching and agreeing with the comment on the need for a social campaign to enhance behavioral change, because we have noted in many of our endeavors that human behavior is what requires a lot of work, and we would need to put in elements that enforce and help us to work on behavioral change, which is a process because it's a system change and a cultural change, and would also require a lot of effort. But at the end of the day, collaboration and working hand in hand with other players would bring in great contributions required to make gains on what needs to be achieved. But waste to energy has huge potential in Malawi, and will also contribute greatly to our energy mix, which at present is quite low and is leading to, besides environmental problems, leading to slow progress on the economic front, resulting from blackouts and outages of energy that we have. But at the end of the day, the gains on the health of people are enormous. So we would look at these things and make sure that the good project becomes even better by delivering on the results to achieve a clean and healthy environment for Malawians. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So a good to great pathway for the proposal. Stella, any additional remarks?
Thank you very much. The key for me is that UNCDF as well as MAF have highlighted that this is something they are looking forward to discussing further. So we look forward to continuous engagement on this so that we have something for Malawi on waste to energy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella, for that. So this invitation to improve, but also to go closer to multilateral development institutions that can provide support to this problem that address a real life challenge. So I think that's an example of when there is a challenge and an issue, and a vision of a public operator, there is project that can really get through there. I think for me, this marks, I would say, the conclusion of the presentation and discussion of the project there. We heard, of course, different type of projects, and what ties them together is not actually the sector. It is the question that each one is asking: how does a mitigation idea becomes an investment that actually happens there? So first, enabling policy is necessary, but often we heard it is not sufficient, no? Projects stall not because of the technology fails. A lot of technology we heard this morning actually work very well, but because the institutional architecture around is often incomplete. Second, we heard it from UNCDF, but also ADB earlier, blended finance is a useful tool and it works, but when the risk is correctly identified, allocated, and mitigated to the best actor that can absorb it there. Getting the sequencing rights, grants, concessional, commercial, is the core of what this community deserves. Third, the project that reach implementation consistently, and we heard it also here, have national institutions with a clear mandate. Example in Malawi. Champion that can change the trajectory, Burkina Faso. Without that, even the best designed financing structure will not survive contact with the civil service there. So with that in mind, I'd like to invite the co-chair of the mitigation program, Angela, to give the closing remarks of the sessions. Angela, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Simon, and to all the 5 project teams for their presentations, and to our advisory panel for their thoughtful and constructive feedback. The projects we've heard about today reflect the diversity of the national contexts and the real challenges countries are navigating as they advance their climate action priorities. And they're a fitting conclusion to what has been a very productive 2.5 days. As per the mandate from the CMA decisions, under our guidance, the Secretariat will produce a summary report of the dialogue and investment-focused events in due course. We'll be trying to do this as soon as possible so you have enough time to reflect on it, especially for those who will be heading into Bonn and, of course, for the preparations for late in the year. All presentations from these 3 days will be published on the 7th Global Dialogue and Investment-Focused event page, along with the on-demand webcast of the events. We would like to once again thank the experts, the moderators, presenters, and participants who have contributed to the presentations and panel discussions over these last days. Finally, we'd like to express our sincere gratitude to the government of the Republic of Korea for hosting us here in Yosu. Your warm welcome and excellent organization have made this event possible, and we're very grateful. We'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the technical teams that have supported this event in these last days and ensured the delivery has been seamless. I'd also like to extend our gratitude to all the volunteers from Yosu who have supported our work, always with a smile, and have also made our stay here really pleasant. As always, my co-chair and I remain available to hear your feedback on the work program and welcome any suggestions for improvement. I also want to extend his apologies as he needed to leave to catch his flight, so that's why he's not up here with me. Once again, thank you for your participation. I'd like to wish you safe travels back to your home countries, and we hope to see many of you at the SB sessions in Bonn in June and at the next Global Dialogue and Investment-Focused event. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, comments, suggestions. We're here really at your disposal. So once again, thank you very much, and the event is officially closed.